I don't want to say scandal yet, because I'm still waiting for the GBC to come and respond to the press statement that the Ministry of Youth and Sports has released in relation to this matter. I think we've been following, all of us have been following, some $3.6 million that have been paid to the state broadcaster. But the Director General came out to say that that is false. The only money that the GBC received was in excess of, I think, $105,000. When the sports minister faced the Public Accounts Committee, he made mention that monies in excess of $3 million was paid to GBC for the All African Games to broadcast it. But when the Director General of the GBC also faced the Public Accounts Committee, his version of the story was that he was paid, or they were paid, $105,000 and not in excess of $3 million, as the sports minister has said. Later on, the sports ministry came out with a press statement trying to break down what went where. Initially, they paid, I think, $1.5 million somewhere in March, and then in May, and then paid to 1 million, and then another 1 million. You arrive at $3.5 million. So what comes off the remaining $100,000 has not been accounted for. I don't know about that. But Mr. Youngson has been following this issue. He's had conversations in relation to this on his channel. I'm sure he has a lot to say about this. So I'm going to start with him on this topic.
It might surprise you, actually. I might surprise you with my thoughts on this one, because how do we start? Okay. First of all, the indication that Ghana made a colossal mistake in deciding to host these games. What an abortive project. It cost us $245 million to host the All Africa Games. $245 million to host games that nobody wanted to watch. Now, why do I say nobody wanted to watch? Normally, when there is a tournament or there is any kind of games, whether it's the African, CAF football or the Olympics, the country that is hosting it, they make a fortune from TV networks paying them for the royalties and the rights to broadcast the games. When this country decided to go and host those games, nobody was interested in paying for the rights to broadcast them. Nobody wanted to broadcast them, but we wanted to host them. What is the point of hosting games if not to draw eyeballs, to draw people, their money, to draw tourists? If you are not going to benefit from that, what's the point of hosting the games? So from the very beginning, it was quite clear to the government that nobody wants to even watch your thing. For which reason they had to budget, to pay. Government had to pay to broadcast the thing for nobody to watch. And I had a presidential staffer, I'm sure he's a presidential staffer, debating me on social media about this, that you, the media, you didn't want to broadcast it. I was talking and convincing you people to come and broadcast it, and you people were not interested. But we serve our audience. If our audience wanted to watch it, we would have broadcast it. If our audience had said, we want to watch the All Africa Games, we would have moved heaven and hell to broadcast it to them. But they didn't want it. So what did they expect us to do? Broadcast is that corporate social responsibility for who to watch. So instead, government of Ghana spent $3.6 million US to broadcast content that nobody wants to watch. That's what we invested in. You forget about the big $245 million waste. Just focus on this 3.6 million. Do you know what that money could have done? It's going to cost us about 7 million cedis to provide free dialysis for those who are known sufferers of kidney disease for a year. We say we can't afford it. We say we don't have the money. But we have $3.5 million to broadcast to nobody. We have that. There are hospitals where there's no oxygen. There are schools where there are no desks. There are roads that are not roads anymore because it's like moon craters. And anybody who lives at the end of that road is the best friend of the shock absorber seller. That's the country we live in. And we can't fix any of these problems. But we can spend 3.6 million of Joe Biden's dollars to broadcast content that nobody wants to watch. Now, so if you have 3.6 million and you insist that you must spend it on broadcasting your content, why not give it to your state broadcaster to buy the equipment and enhance their capacity so that they can do it? No, you told them to go and bring outsiders to come and do the job. So that money was split in such a way that GTV itself ended up with just a little over $100,000. The rest went to others. So others came to do the job. We subcontracted to private companies to come and collect millions of dollars to broadcast content that nobody wants to watch. It is so fundamentally stupid. And it bothers me that I'm a citizen of a country that made such a decision. And look, in fact, I'm not being fair when I call it stupid, because I don't think our leaders are stupid. I think they are very intelligent. I think they know what they are doing. This was not stupidity. If you ask me, there was a benefit. It's just that the benefit was not to the nation. It was to some private pocket. Because out of this $245 million, we now learn that $15 million was spent on feeding for 18 days. 18 days. I mean, let's do some quick maths, okay? Let's just do a little back of the envelope calculation. So my understanding is that about 5,000 people came to participate in the games.
Yes.
Okay. 5,000 participants. Let's say that each country, in addition to their participants, also sent officials. So let's say that another 2,500 officials, right?
So I actually checked, and the number of athletes who came were next, I think about 3,000.
Oh, 3,000.
Yes.
Thank you for the accuracy. 3,000 officials. Let's say another 3,000 athletes.
Yeah.
Let's add another 1,005. Let's even make it 2,000 of officials. So let's round it up at 5,000 people that we had to feed for 18 days. So if you 5,000 divided by 18 days times how much? Oh no, sorry. Why am I doing times? So actually, let me do it properly. 15 million. 15 million divided by 5,000 people. So we spent for the 18 days, we spent a total of $3,000 per person.
Yeah.
$3,000, which means for each day, so let's by 18 days divided by 18. $166 per day for food. 3 square meals a day. So let's divide that by 3. $55 per meal. What is a dollar? What was it back then?
Let's say it was 15.
15, right? Yeah. Times 15.
833, yeah.
We fed them at a rate of 833 cedis per meal.
Yeah.
I have nothing else to say.
Kwame.
Well, so let me also seize the opportunity to greet our viewers and to thank you for the opportunity to comment on this evolving matter. First of all, I think that we have leaders who do not have love for the nation. We have leaders who are narcissists. We have leaders who only love themselves and are desirous of doing things that will be beneficial to them and their family members. Now, we only got to know of this when the matter came before Public Accounts Committee. Bear in mind that the initial conversation that arose out of the organization of this activity was in respect of the $245 million that Kojo Yancey spoke about. So if you recall, Mustafa, what's his name? The sports minister, Yusuf, was hauled before Parliament to give an explanation and a breakdown of what the what went into the 245 million US dollars. And it became a political football. So NDC were asking the questions, MPP were defending it, and it got to a point where, he didn't even want to provide the explanations that we needed, as a country. So, I am not surprised that we've gotten to the point where now it has become clear that the monies that were paid to the ministry for the purposes of organizing this activity were not used, in my estimation, for the purpose for which they were paid, the monies were paid. Because it does not make sense, does not make sense at all, that you will spend $15 million on 5,000 athletes, which is the athletes plus the other, ancillary staff or officials, right? For 18, how many days?
18
days.
Yeah.
It does not make sense anywhere in the world. Okay? That you claim that you paid a state broadcaster $3 million. And bear in mind, the minister did not mince words when he said that GBC was paid $3 million. He knew exactly. 3.6. It was later that we got to know that it was actually 3.6 million. The initial figure that was quoted was 3 million. Okay? And this revelation came about by reason of the question that was put to him by Sam George. And that is how come we got to know that GBC was paid $3 million. What surprises me, okay, is the response that first came out from the Director General of GBC, Professor Amin, where he intimated that GBC in fact received 105,000 US dollars and not $3 million. So that was the initial revelation that came out after that $3 million figure was put out. Okay? And this was said on GBC, on his own platform. Okay? And I do recall that subsequent to that, even the admin for their Facebook page went and posted NSMQ question of the day. 105,000 versus 3 million.
Yes.
Answer the question. So, clearly, okay, the $105,000 is not in doubt. What is in doubt is whether or not the 3 million was indeed paid to GBC. That's the subject matter of controversy. Okay? The subsequent explanations that were being given, okay, I think is an afterthought, which is in response to the answer that was provided by the Director General of GBC when he was told that they were paid $3 million. Obviously, Kojo, if I have a company and you're saying that you paid me $3 million, every Ghanaian would want to know if indeed the company was paid $3 million and what the $3 million was used for. And so if you were not paid $3 million and you were paid 105, I will come out and clear my name and clear the station's name. That Charlie, I only got 105,000. Okay, I think that there were some back-end discussions, and that is why he subsequently sought to clarify that they were paid the 3.6 million. However, a significant portion of the amount was used to procure some other services from different organizations. And I think either you, Kojo, or Raymond Akwa made a very valid point. Oh no, actually on Evans Mensah's program, when Sam George was interviewed, because they sought to explain that, you know, they procured, I think, some technical support or something like in production and things like that, and which is why, you know, the money was $3 million. And then the question becomes what Kojo asked, that if indeed you have $3 million, why did you not resource GBC with that full amount?
That's a lot of money.
Exactly, so that they can buy or purchase the equipment needed for the production and the technical support for airing the event. Why? Why did we not do that? One thing comes to mind, that the procurement processes are always breached for people's own parochial gains. Because it doesn't make sense, bless. It does not make sense that you will. So if you deduct, my mathematics is terrible, but if you deduct 105,000 from 3 million, how much do you get?
Yes, you have some 1.895.
Okay.
2.89.
2.89 million. 2.89 million dollars.
Yeah.
So you are saying that we gave it to third parties to provide a service. The first question is, who are the third parties? What went into the procurement process? Okay? How were they selected? What was the initial figure that was given? Indeed, they make the point that they chose GBC by reason of the fact that the other providers, okay, for the same service that GBC was going to provide, charged in excess of $6 million. And so if you pull parity with how much was charged by GBC, which is around the 3.6 million, GBC's offer was better. We want to know the people, the companies that applied.
So
Exactly.
So I have the name of some companies here. If you'd allow
no,
me.
I'll permit you, yes.
Okay, right. So the companies are here: PSG and 2,056,534 euros. $1 million was paid to Quality Media Production SL. The production room TPR made 57,000 euros.
You are not getting my argument. I am not talking about how the 2-point-something million Kojo said was his best. By GBC. The argument advanced by the ministry is that when they were asking for people to apply, okay, there were companies that applied, which companies were charging $6 million.
Yeah.
And so if you look at the offer as was presented by GBC, their offer of 3-point-something million was the best out of the other companies that wanted the job. And I'm saying that for purposes of transparency and accountability, it is imperative that you let us know which companies applied. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's the point I'm making. Now, beyond that is also what you are trying to put forward, that what went into the assessment, okay, of the production companies that were selected by GBC itself for the purposes of providing the service they were looking for. What went into it? What was the assessment? How was the procurement done? Why did they decide to use those companies that you said PSG and the other? So what was the decision? Okay, how were they selected? What was the procurement process? Was it sole sourcing? Was it an open tender? What is it? We want to know. And we want to know the figures that they were charging, if indeed the figures amounted to one that can cumulatively give us the 2-point-something million dollars. All right? So these are questions that we want to ask, because we cannot live in a country where every single time, whenever there's an opportunity to put the name of Ghana on the map, on the world map, okay, in that process, politicians steal from the people. Because there is no logical and reasonable explanation for what has happened. What has occasioned, at best, is a deliberate and intentional attempt by political players and actors to always steal from the people. So we need further and better particulars. We need clarity we need transparency, and we need them to explain to us what went into choosing these companies that GBC extended, the invitation to, for the purposes of providing the very service that GBC itself could have provided if we had resourced them. In conclusion, okay, there are some questionable aspects, and I've spoken about lack of transparency, all right, and the potential mismanagement is also another questionable aspect of this whole transaction.
Right.
Okay, because there is a significant dichotomy between the amount which was originally quoted by GBC and what was quoted by the ministry. Okay, suffice to say that there has been subsequent explanations, but those explanations given, in my estimation, does not find expression in logic. And I would safely conclude that it arose as a result of the conversations that Ghanaians have been having relative to this subject matter, in wanting to know what exactly went into this whole process. All right? Then whether value for money was achieved. Okay? Because the reasonableness of 3.6 million must necessarily lead to a conversation about value for money. Kojo Assent has told you that nobody was interested in it. Nobody. So if we paid GBC 3.6 million, what is the cost-benefit analysis? What cost-benefit analysis went into the decision to even want to use GBC to air this? What were we expecting to get out of airing this in the final analysis? All these conversations must be had. The right answers elicited from the people who were involved in this transaction. But in conclusion, I just want to say a big thank you to the minority for always exposing and putting a spotlight on some of these matters. Because without that revelation, this would have been swept under the carpet. And the Ghanaians, the good people of this Ghana would have been shortchanged. I do not understand why all the time, across the political divide, this particular Ministry of Youth and Sports is always bedeviled with one corruption scandal or another. I do not understand it. It is as though we deliberately create avenues and opportunities to seize the moment and steal from the people. So we need better answers. And GBC, the professor, you are a professor. You are a man of dignity. Let your yes be yes. Let your no be no. If you are saying that originally you received 105, that should be the full and final answer, irrespective of the political pressures that may arise as a result of the explanation that you've given. It should not at all, prevent you from speaking your facts, your version of events. That's what you received. Indeed, if you do not do that, and you are audited, because you obviously will be audited, and you have to show what you use that 3 million for, you will be found wanted. The politician will be smiling to the bank. So Ghanaians should not take their eyes off the ball, and we must consistently put the feet of government to the fire of responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Kwame Osudanso. Now let me come to Lawyer Kadri.
Yes. So first of all, let me also use the opportunity to say a very good afternoon to our evening.
Yeah.
Hey, it's 4.
No, the couch is evening.
To our cherished viewers. And then to have a little bite on the subject, I think I absolutely concur with the submission made by both Kojo and then KOD. Clearly, when you take a cursory look at the facts that has been presented to us, you definitely smell, the rat. You feel that something, is not adding up. And per my mind, I think that the whole narrative that has actually been given so far, I can see that on the part of the Ministry of Sport, Ministry of Youth and Sport, there you could see some, it's like an exercise of convenience. A group of people with a clear thinking to, rob the state of its, precious, resources. Because I believe that the amount of money that they have actually told us that they fed the 5,000 participants with, if the money belonged to any official of the Ministry of Youth and Sports, I don't think they will spend it that way. So the question is, how is it possible? How can it be right that 5,000 people will be fed up to 15 million US? Look, since the commencement of the Olympics Games, I followed it from the beginning to the end. And I saw the grandeur, I saw the organization, I saw that everything was neatly and accurately organized. I do not believe the number of people that went to Paris in terms of the food that they ate. I'm unsure if actually they fed them up to $15 million. It's just unfortunate that in our part of the world, we just made big monies look nothing. $50 million, KOD. You agree with me that it's a huge money. For example, let's even agree without admitting that all the participants that came to Ghana, they were fed at Kempiski. Do you think that they will be that it will be enough to use $15 million to feed people? We are talking about over 100 million Ghana cedis. Maybe our listeners would not even understand when we say 15 million. We are talking
200 million Ghana cedis.
Sorry, over 200 million Ghana cedis.
Yes.
This Ghana cedis 2 billion.
2 billion? I think it's more than 2 billion. Yeah,
maybe something like that. Yeah.
The old cities, it should be in excess of 2 trillion, about 2 trillion.
So clearly, I think that we can say without any fear or scintilla of contradiction that there is deliberateness on the part of some, people to rob, the country of some money. And like KOD mentioned, in everything that you do, there's always a day of atonement. And I believe that the interests of the Ghanaian people have got to be whipped in this matter. So that will follow it to the logical conclusion. Like I said, it is if the monies belong to them individually, that I don't think they would have expended the money that way. So clearly it's just state money, let's just organize, and then just chop it. But I know that this matter is not actually going to die so easily, given that we are in an election year. You understand? And everything that happens in this country, the masses of the people of Ghana have interest in what is happening. Clearly, I am of the opinion that this particular, incident is unfortunate. It doesn't actually make a good story for the image of the country. You know that in most recent years, Ghana has just now become more or less a pariah state, where it has now become the gamut of corruption. Because clearly, when you look at incidences like this, it's very difficult for you to resist the conclusion that there is an attempt on the part of some people, to steal state money. So I would actually hold a view that those monies actually, the accounts that have been given by the Director General of the Ministry, GTV, and that of the accounts of the Minister of Sport, clearly you can see that there is conflict in their accounts. And in law of evidence, we are told that when there is conflict in oral evidence, it has to be resolved using documentary, evidence. So what I'm saying now is that the Ministry of Sport should bring their books, and let GTV also bring their books. And let's get an independent auditor, maybe Deloitte and Tucci, one of those international accounting firms, to actually do a forensic examination of it, so that we'll know where the money went into. And then, like KOD also mentioned, since time immemorial, the Ministry of Sports has actually, made a kind of reputation for itself that this is a ministry that you just don't know what is happening there. Simple, accounting measures and steps are only sidestepped. In every occasion that we have, let's say, a tournament and then what have you, at the end of the tournament, there would be issues of accountability where the ministry will be running helter-skelter. And this is just one example of it. Thankfully, it appeared that the day of the opening of the games, I was at the University of Ghana, Sports Stadium. I was there, and that was where the All-African Games were commenced. And I recall that there were a lot of organizational lapses, even to the point that when the president came and was addressing, our visitors that came into the country, there was power blackout. I was there. You understand? And then you could just see that a lot of things were not adding up in terms of operations and organizations. So I was there with a friend, and I was telling this friend that look at this embarrassment. Given the amount of money that they are mentioning, or they are saying that they had expended into the organization of this, why would we have a case where there will be power blackout at a crucial point like this? So I think that I do concur with the submissions of my colleagues Kojo and KOD, that given that $245 million is huge, the whole idea of $245 million being given for an organization of a program that had little or no interest. And I can also see that on the part of the Ministry of Sports, there was no, intention to even whip the excitement and enthusiasm of Ghanaians for it. Do you know that a lot of Ghanaians didn't even know that something like that was going on? I actually happened to, like I said, have been part of the opening, and I had the opportunity to attend some of the games and then what have you. Clearly, it was almost the case that when you go there, the stadium will be more or less, So clearly, those amounts of money are just, so huge that the minority in Parliament should actually, keep on to the matter. They should hold on to it, and let's make sure that the last dime of kobo, that was expended into the organization of the All African Game is accounted for. And then, if it is the case that maybe there are challenges under the present, regime where they are not able to account for, in the event that after the election there is changes, I think that heads must rule over this matter. Because I believe that if we put our microscopic eye into events, clearly we will find a lot of infractions and infringements, which are all causing financial loss to the state. I just don't know why Ghana we are so comfortable in taking financial decisions that have a huge implication in terms of our budget. It has huge implication in terms of our budget, and it brings nothing to the state. So is it that Ghana is a state that is born to lose? If everything that Ghana enters is supposed to lose, it doesn't make sense. So in conclusion, I would join the thousands of Ghanaians who have actually demonstrated interest in this matter, add my voice, that we should follow it. We should make sure that they balance the book. Whatever submission the Ministry of Sports is saying is their word against the word of the Director General of GBC. They should bring documents and let a resolution of a sort be made through the documents. Otherwise, this is just unfortunate, clearly unfortunate.
Yeah. I want to ask you a question. Could it also be the case that the money was paid to GBC, and GBC was directed by the Ministry of Youth and Sports to disburse that amount to the third parties? Could that be the case? Because if you listen to what Prof said in the Public Accounts Committee, he said, I want to state that GBC's total benefits from the African Games was $105,000. Nothing more was paid to GBC. And then the Ministry of Youth and Sports comes back and try to break down what went where. It says the ministry cited that the sum of $2.5 million was paid to GBC in 2 installments, while $1 million was paid to a third party upon the instructions of GBC. So this statement is clear that the $2.5 million was paid directly to GBC and not to a third party. But what then could have been the agreement? Because if $1 million was paid to a third party, and it has been stated here, upon the instructions of GBC, then it means that if that $2.5 million does not belong to GBC, it could have been paid to the third parties directly by the ministry without the involvement of GBC necessarily.
I think the media has a job to do here. We certainly have to attempt to pierce the veil behind these companies that have been named, find out who owns them, who runs them, and what service precisely they offered in exchange for whatever amounts are allocated to them. GBC's document, the payment, I don't know if it's a payment order, the one that lists the companies, the one you were quoting, that lists the companies and the amounts they were paid. It's a GBC document. Okay. So if you put 2 and 2 together, I think what GBC is saying is, look, it doesn't matter where the money passed through. Ours was 105,000 cedis, dollars. The rest is not ours. It went to outsiders. Now, the first time I heard the Prof speaking, I don't know about you, but I had the impression that he was attempting to blow the whistle.
Yes, that was the impression I got too. That's why
Yeah.
I was talking about subsequent.
So I came away with this impression that the guy is trying to reveal that, look,
Hold up.
this amount that is being quoted, I am only associated with this fraction of it. Which would suggest that, look, it's not GBC that came up, if we are to go by this assumption, and at this point it's an assumption, if we are to go by it, then it's not GBC that came to government of Ghana and said, hey, you know what, this is your thing that nobody wants to watch. We want to broadcast it, and we have some friends that can help us to do it. This is how much each one will charge. So give us the money and we'll pay them.
Pay them, yeah.
Right? It couldn't be that. Because if it was that, then he wouldn't come to Parliament and then say, all we got was 105,000. It must mean that even the decision for them to get the 105,000 was not made by them. Right? Otherwise, he wouldn't be saying it that way. Okay? So someone else made a decision of how much GBC should get, how much everyone else should get. Who? Who was it? And I mean, if the thing nobody wants to watch, would it be GBC that comes to government and says, we can broadcast it to nobody, and we'll even bring people along to help us do it? I doubt it. This was somebody's idea. That, you know what, this is an opportunity to write off $3.6 million. This is an opportunity to do it. Let us do it this way. By the end of it, our state broadcaster will get this much, but the rest can go here. If you ask me, that is more close to what must have actually happened. But these are all things that we will get to the bottom of if it is probed. If we actually probe it. And the media has a job to do as well. Like I said at the beginning, we can do some digging about those companies. We can find out who runs them, who owns them. Because that $15 million that was spent on the food, do you know which company did it? Do you know who owns it?
No.
Do you know whose wife owns it?
No.
Do you know which government official's wife owns it? Do you know which member of the president's immediate staff's wife owns it? Let's do some digging.
Oh, but tell us.
I said let's do some digging, la. Let's do some digging.
What was the statement from Prof? In relation to how much was given to GBC? What did he exactly say?
Yes, I'm trying to get it.
He said GBC was what? Or GBC received, or was only paid?
I'm coming. I want to try.
I want to get the exact.
Yes, I want to try and get it. So he says, I want to state that GBC's total benefit from the African Games was $105,000. Nothing more was paid to GBC.
So GBC's total benefit was what?
$105,000.
Exactly.
Nothing more was paid.
Yeah. So what that means is that when they were given the $105,000, or when they were paid $105,000, nothing more was given to them.
Yeah.
What that means, or what that presupposes, is that even the 3 million analogy does not fly. Kadri, do you follow? Because he states that we were only paid $105,000, nothing more. Nothing more. So what it means is that if they were paid 3 million, he would have said that the ministry paid GBC $3 million, out of which 105,000 was retained by GBC, the rest of the money disbursed accordingly.
Yeah, to the other parties.
Do you understand? To the other part, the other third parties.
Yeah.
All right. So it means that the ministry was heavily involved in the disbursement of the funds to the specific entities which were involved in this whole enterprise. And which is why the man said GBC was paid 105,000 Ghana cedis. Nothing more. Nothing more. Okay? Words are powerful. Said nothing more. And the choice of language is intentional. Okay? So he was trying to reveal to us that even what was received by GBC was paid by the ministry. Okay? Because right now, there is no explanation as to whether or not it is even GBC that suggested the third parties that were involved in this whole transaction. There is no evidence of that. That it was GBC that said, let's use Kadri, let's use Kojo Yankson, let's use Bless. It is not evidently clear. It is possible that the ministry wanted to do their own thing, but wanted to use GBC as a small screen. Okay? To say that we want to use Kojo Yankson's company, we want to use Kadri's company, we want to use Bless's company, but the Ghanaian people will talk. So let's just hide behind the cloak of using GBC in order that we can use that as an opportunity to use our companies for the purposes of doing this business. And that's, in my estimation, that's exactly what happened.
Well, interesting. I'm waiting for what the Ministry of Youth and Sports would say with regards to the $15 million that was spent on food. They haven't given us a breakdown yet about what specifically went where. So I'm waiting for that. I'm looking forward to how that pans out. Right. We'll proceed to our next topic for conversation, but if you're just joining us, you are watching a Thursday edition of The Couch. My name is Koku Alomaso. I get to sit in once again for Mami Amaprat. My fellow conversationist here, Kojo Yankson, also lawyer Abdul Rauf, and Kwame Owusu Danso, who hosts the morning show here at Pan African Television. Let's proceed to our next topic for conversation. Judgment debt default. U.S. court awards $111 million to Trafigura against Ghana. $111 million. Wow. That's quite a colossal sum. Sometimes you do not see the size or the magnitude of the money until you decide to do a conversion into the Ghana cedi. Right. I'll take time to read an excerpt of the story. It says that following fruitless attempts to obtain the outstanding payments from Ghana, okay, I don't think this is where it starts. I'm coming. The Ghanaian government has been ordered to pay $111,493,828.92 along with obligatory post-judgment interest by a District of Columbia court in the United States, which granted a motion for default judgment in favor of Ghana Power Generation Company, that is the GPGC. Ghana disregarded a previous tribunal verdict from the United Kingdom, which led to this ruling. After Ghana terminated a power purchase deal with Ghana Power Generations Company on February 18, 2018, a UK tribunal found on January 26, 2021, in its final award that Ghana had broken its contractual duties. According to Ghana, the contract was terminated because the foreign power company did not fulfill certain contractual obligations. The tribunal, however, disapproved and granted GPGC $134,348,661 in damages, which were computed using the purchase agreement's early termination payment formula. The award includes compensation of GPGC's arbitration fees and expenses in the amount of $3,309,877 with interest at 3 months USD LIBOR compounded quarterly and an interest rate of 6 month USD plus 6%. It's a long story. If I decide to read everything, I would go on and on and on and on. Perhaps spend even more than 10 minutes reading it. But I'm sure my guests here know the story. I'm going to once again start with you, Kojo Yankson, on this interesting issue.
I'd love to hear from my colleagues. Do you mind
we keep on adding to our debts.
Let Kojo rest.
Oh, then Kwame should be you. Then Kwame should be you.
You see, sometimes I wonder, okay, why we do this to ourselves as it is. Look, everybody know the sanctity of contracts. All of us, even first year LLB students, are aware of the sanctity of contract if it meets all the requirements for it to become a contract. Offer made, acceptance done, consideration given, there's that intention to create a legal obligation. Once all those ones are satisfied, it becomes a legal document which ought to be respected by the parties who are involved in that transaction, using that contract as the bedrock of that transaction. So it beggars belief that a contract that is in operation, a contract that has its terms clearly spelled out, be abruptly abrogated without recourse to the after effect of that abrogation. I do not understand it. So there was a power purchase agreement that Ghana entered into. In fact, ECG entered into. ECG is a state institution. Entered into with a company called GCPG, which is a subsidiary of a Swiss company called Trafigura. The agreement was entered into, I think, sometime in 2015, 2016, thereabout. Okay. Then NDC lost the elections. NPP comes to power and says they want to review. If you recall, they said they were reviewing all previous contracts or contracts which were entered by the NDC administration. So the Ameri deal was reviewed. This particular agreement was also reviewed. All right. Now, after reviewing this agreement, two things were said by this administration, by government. One, that the figures or the amount involved was on the high side, and that there were contractual irregularities. Okay, so these were the two things which were identified by government when they were reviewing the agreement between ECE and GCPG. All right, and on the basis of that, abrogated the said contract. Now, when the contract was terminated, sometime in 2018, Trafigura, which is the mother or the parent company, decided to take Ghana to an arbitration court because of the terms of the contract. The terms of the contract. Initially, they wanted $136 million plus, arbitration interests and, some other costs. But the UK court awarded Trafigura, a judgment for $134 million. Now, when you win a judgment, you have to execute the judgment, and there are processes for the execution of it. So the government of Ghana was obviously supposed to pay the $134 million judgment award. they failed to pay the $134 million, but instead paid $1 million. Okay? Now, what it means is that government of Ghana was supposed to pay the balance of 124, I believe, million dollars within a specified period. Now, our checks reveal that letters were written to the foreign minister, Shirley Ayoko Botwe, which letters were received by her office. Okay? And so, it is not in doubt that the request for the award, okay, was made by the judgment creditor. So, the government of Ghana refused to make these payments to Trafigura. Okay? And in the enforcement of that judgment that was given to the judgment creditors in the UK, they went to another court to ensure that that award is enforced, that judgment is enforced. And there the court held a view that government of Ghana should make the payments to the judgment creditors. Bless, this is where we are. This is where we are. To begin with, even the decision to terminate the contract, in my estimation, was unnecessary. At best, what you could have done was that after your review, you could have sat with GCPJ
to renegotiate.
To renegotiate the terms of the agreement. Okay? It is, I believe that it is as a result of a certain misplaced assumption that all contracts which were entered into by the previous administration were entered into for the benefit of some individuals.
And it was corruption laden.
And was corruption laden, in my estimation, which is what informed the decision by government to take the decision that it took without recourse to the implications of that particular decision. This is more than causing financial loss to the state, and whoever is involved in the unjustifiable termination of this contract, which has led to this judgment debt, I should say, of $134 million that ought to be paid, must be dealt with, because we are in court over the purchase of ambulances, which figure, okay, does not equate how much we are supposed to pay Trafigura in terms of even figures and whatever. Now we are told today that a property that we have in the UK has been seized in satisfaction of the judgment. That was
fractional satisfaction.
Absolutely. Okay? Why? Somebody must pay for this. Somebody must pay for this. Because if you are somebody who is very minded, okay, about how the country is even struggling to raise revenue, and the fact that the revenue that we even generate internally is not enough to cater to the demands of our budget, and then you take such a decision to further burden the country with the payment of $134 million, you must suffer for it. And I think this is the beginning of, an awakening, in my estimation, that Ghanaians must wake up from our stupor and begin to punish people who deliberately plunge the country into some of these foreseeable events. It doesn't make sense. Bless. So in conclusion, the person who advised government to terminate this agreement must suffer for it. Okay? The person who actually decided to terminate the agreement must suffer for it. And all the parties who were involved in this illogical, unreasonable, decision to terminate the contract, for which reason we are paying $134 million. Must all suffer for it. Serious financial. This is a proper financial loss to the state. There are some conspiracy theorists who have opined that some of these things are deliberate and that some of these politicians enter into some form of agreement with some of these companies to terminate the agreement so that in the final analysis they get to benefit from it. So this surreptitious means and ways of stealing from the people cannot be accepted and countenanced.
Right.
And so we must begin, we should sound the alarm to them that each and every one of the persons who are involved in this stinking, contract abrogation will suffer in the event that there's a change of government. Or in fact, even if the MPP continues to be in power, they must make sure that all of these people suffer for the decision that they took.
Right. Council.
No, I think that KOD has done, justice to the topic. Just that, let me add that I recall that in 2017, when the MPP came to power, the then Minister of Energy, Boache Jaku, actually set up the PPA review committee, to review all, existing power agreements in the country. And then I believe it was this committee that actually, reviewed this particular agreement and then actually held the view that they needed to, truncate the agreement. But what I would want to say, by way of starting my argument, is the fact that you would agree with me that $100 million can actually, set up, a power plant for Ghana. $100 million is not small money. Isn't it? Can $100 million set up a power plant for Ghana? $100 million. And if the decision was that we would rather set up our own, was 200 million. So $100 million could actually set up a power plant for Ghana. And be that the case, what the country will only need to pay is operational costs. When it comes to power generation, there is the recovery, capital recovery cost, and that of the operational, cost. In which case, that we will only need to pay operational costs, and that one, the Ghanaian consumers will be able to pay for that. So, like I said in the issue that we discussed earlier, that it appears that under the current dispensation, it's that people do not have that patriotic, feeling for the country anymore. Whatever opportunity that a person gets, what they do is that whatever that they can chop, they will chop. Whatever that they will destroy, they will destroy. Just look at me. Under what condition? Like KOD took us through the basic, tenets of contract. Once that meeting of mind is there and the consideration is given, so far as the law is concerned, there is contractual agreement between the two, and you cannot resolve easily. If you want to resolve from that contract, there will be consequences, and this is just one of the consequences that the whole country is now made to pay because of the fact that somebody failed to do their due diligence, or somebody was supposed to do analysis that would be in the best interest of the country. And all these things, as we have already said, it appears, you just ask yourself, the managers of the country, what are they doing? They should wake up and smell the coffee. They should know that, look, most of the decisions that they are taking are hurting the country, directly and indirectly. Okay, let's assume that those at the Ministry of Energy didn't know what they were doing. What is the AG doing? clearly from the facts that have been narrated to us, we can see that you didn't see any, intention on the part of the AG to fight this thing vigorously. That is not there. I understand that what the AG did was that he recommended that the government of Ghana should pay that money. Okay, let's assume that the AG actually did not file its response to the International Arbitration Panel. The AG could also seize the opportunity to ask for extension of time within which to file their own response. If the AG actually wants to fight for the state. It's a default judgment, so wonderful. So because it's a default judgment, we could actually apply for extension of time to file our response to it. But clearly, it appears that there was no intention on the part of the AG to fight the case vigorously. That is what gives credence to the conspiracy thinking that maybe it's just an organized attempt by some people to let the state lose that amount of money so that some people will benefit from it. And be that the case, we are saying that this actually smells of corruption. It smells of corruption. Most of the cases that involve corruption in this country, they are said that the way it comes across to you, when you look at it carefully, you know that this arrangement cannot be right in the morning. It cannot be right in the evening. Clearly, it cannot be. So I am actually saying that two things. The committee that was set, that committee should be invited for questioning. What was the basis upon which they actually cancelled that? What was the basis for that? And then apart from that, to the AG, the Attorney General has so much powers. If the Attorney General, look at the vigor and the enthusiasm with which the Attorney General is fighting this Atu-Forcing case. You think that with that vigor, the government of Ghana would have to pay this amount of money if the AG had that vigor to fight this matter? So clearly, when we see things like this, it's easy for us to believe for us to believe in the conspiracy theory that there is an attempt by some people to make sure that the state lose that amount, so that they will get their cut from it. How? When did we get to this? I recall before the MPP came into power, they argued, on the background that they wanted to fight corruption in this country. But we would all agree here now that since the coming into power of the MPP, cases of corruption, have been on the ascendancy. From one agency of government to one institution of government, everywhere you smell it, left, right, center. And me, I say this with a heavy heart, because it appears that our public officials, most of them do not actually have any, basic understanding of the kind of state that we should have that will serve the needs and the aspirations of the Ghanaian people. So clearly this is needless. This amount of money, it is my clear thinking that if the AG wanted to fight it with the vigor with which he's fighting this Atu-Forcing case, I believe that the government of Ghana would not have to pay this money. But clearly he didn't fight it. But when it came to that Atu-Forcing case, look at it. He even lost the case in the first instance, and now he's now appealing. So what happens to this one? Appeal. Say that no, we can't. Let's go into the merit of the matter. And I believe that once he appeals, it is even an arbitration. You can say that no, we now want to be given an opportunity to be heard. Let's have a conversation. That is what an AG who actually wants to fight for his country would do. Not for him to recommend that, okay, pay the money, so that you go and get your cut. I think that the people of Ghana must rise up and reject this. The people of Ghana must rise up and reject it. And if we cannot reject it, I am saying that heads must rule. It's as simple as that. These things we have been saying it, and now it's now becoming monotonous. That you can see that under the current dispensation, whatever that you say, popular officials will not listen to you. If you can go and bend the sea, and we will not keep quiet. We will keep on talking on these issues until the right thing is done. The question I asked in the first case is the same question I want to ask. This money that the AG is recommending that the state should pay, to that company, if the money were to be belong to the AG privately, you think that he would just throw his hands in despair and ask the state and ask that he will pay that money just like that? No, he will put up a fight. So I expect the AG to put up a fight so that we can rescue this money for the people of Ghana. Otherwise, it is going to be a huge financial loss to the state. And any financial loss to the state must not go unpunished. This is my opinion.
Right, thank you very much. Let me come to you, Kojo.
Okay, thank you. Bless, you know that I am perhaps one of the biggest critics of this government. That is on record. But I love the truth more than I hate the record of this government. The truth is more important. So permit me to set a few of the bits of information that has gone out into the public domain, see if we can set them straight, because not all of it is accurate.
Okay.
Then once we get the full picture, then we can see where to allocate blame, because actually one thing I agree with both of you on is that there is a lot of blame to go around. So let's try and set the record straight. Kwame gave some really great background to this case, you know, the whole ECG going into the deal with the GPGC, which is owned by Trafigura and all of that. Very, very informative background there. Now, let's try and bring it up to date. So the matter was dealt with in an international arbitration tribunal where the government of Ghana lost. We lost. So the ruling of the tribunal was that we must pay the money, 100 and whatever million, 111 million.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I think the lawyers can educate us even better. When a tribunal makes a ruling, it is final. There is no opportunity to appeal. There is no opportunity to go and overturn the ruling. If the tribunal says you owe and you must pay, you must pay. Best thing you can do is maybe go and negotiate terms of payment, but you must pay. It is final. That's what happened to government of Ghana. So at that point, the responsibility having and I will come back and talk about who is to blame for even getting us to that point. But having got to that point, the responsibility was on the government of, and particularly the finance ministry under Ken Ufuriata, to pay. If you can't pay, talk to your debtor about your what's it called?
Financial
terms.
constraints.
But they didn't. So eventually, these people wanted to seize our embassy. You all remember that story. Papa also Nkrumah, High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, had to come on TV and say, please, government, pay this thing. It was shameful and embarrassing. Then they went to pay up, I hear they went to pay some 1.something million or something like that. And then the payments stopped again. So this company, in pursuit of their rights, went to the United States Circuit Court and filed again to insist on their rights. Now this is the case that Ghana made a no-show at. This most recent filing in a circuit court in the United States, Ghana government sent nobody there. Attorney General didn't go. Now you might ask yourself, okay, so should he have gone? Why didn't he go? What was he going to say? He can't go and debate the fact that we owe. It's a final ruling. We owe. So what's he going to go and say there? There's no defense to mount. So what should he do? Should he hire lawyers to go and represent us there and say what? If anything, it's good that nobody turned up, because there's nothing to say. There's no argument to make. At this point, we have a bill. We must pay it. And since we insist on not paying it, that's the effect of it. Now, they have seized our, what's it called? What's the name of the building?
Regina House.
Regina House. They're taking all the proceeds, all the rent from it. I mean, what kind of embarrassment is this? Now, let's work our way backwards and figure out where all the blame should be apportioned. Let's start from the beginning. And this actually only came to me this evening listening to Kwame when he started off explaining a contract of acceptance. The basic and fundamental thing that everybody, even me, I understand. How much more the people we have appointed, the lawyers, we have the men, people who we have appointed and voted for over the years to run this country. Of course, they know what a contract is. So what contract is it that they signed? They signed a contract where the termination clause, the termination costs more than the implementation.
Yeah. Essentially, that's what it is.
Yeah. Kwame, if you are my lawyer and you allow me to sign such a contract, not only must I fire you, I must hire people to beat you up. I mean, I'm being flippant, I'm joking.
Yeah.
But you get my point.
I do.
The government of Ghana signed a deal where the breach cost more than the implementation. Who does that?
Yeah.
So that should be our first point of blame. Whoever signed that contract. Let's move on. Then these people came along and said, oh, as for us, we are going to review. We know better. We are come to review the contracts. So you came to review. Now, if you are reviewing, it means that you have an option. If you take a contract and you look at it, you can decide, this one, we'll keep it. Or this one, we'll cancel it. Anna, okay. A group of lawyers sat around the table, reviewed these contracts, and these lawyers together decided that this contract, which will cost us more to cancel, we'll cancel it. Kwame, if you are my lawyer, you advise me to do such a thing. I must delight in causing you harm. So that's our second point of blame. Okay, so now you've cancelled. You've cost us money. Pay the money. They took us to court. To arbitration. Okay. Now, at this point, I'm torn. I don't know whether I should say, okay, so, because back then it was Gloria Akufu who was Attorney General, right? Okay, but Godfred Dame was Deputy Attorney General. So that team would have led us into that arbitration. And they lost. Now, what does this mean? Does this mean they did a bad job? I mean, a contract is a contract. So I don't know. The jury is out. I wasn't there. I didn't see their performance. But I will give them the benefit of the doubt that to actually defend against a contract that was so clearly written that you as an adult, knowing that it will cost you more to breach than to comply, signed. And then you expect someone else to come and now use their expertise to get you out of it, dear. It's not very fair on Gloria Akufu and her team. So if they didn't win in arbitration, I can give them the benefit of that. It's not every case that you can win. These things are tough. Especially arbitration, where the ruling is final. There's no margin for error. If you lose, that's it, yaboka. So, over there, I'll understand small. But the one I really don't understand, and when we start locking people up, the one we should start with is the one who had the obligation to go and pay. Knowing that if I don't pay now, this money will compound.
Yeah.
Knowing that if I don't pay, we will lose assets. Knowing that my failure to pay has already embarrassed the state to the point where our ambassador, a diplomat, is forced to come on air and beg for payment to be made. Knowing all this, for me to still be able to walk around, drive around in my Kantanka, and just feel comfortable, knowing that it is my failure to pay that is causing this problem, that's the first guy we should lock up. And you see, it's the finance ministry. You have the entire consolidated fund at your disposal. You decide what to do with it. You could find money to build cathedral, but you couldn't pay our bill. Lock him up. So personally, if I go through the order of things, it is quite easy for me to determine at each point who messed us up. But one thing I'll say, and I have, in fact, even because of this case, my respect for Godfred Dame has gone up. This is the one thing on which I might disagree with my colleagues. This is the same guy who told us that he has saved us about 6 trillion Ghana cedis in judgment debt, and we didn't believe it. We thought, preposterous. But it's exactly cases like this that he actually successfully defended the government on. And there are, the information is there, the data is there, the details are there. I can even quote some of them to you. So there is let me start with this one. So there's a Chinese company, China Jilin International Economic and Technical Cooperation versus the Attorney General. This case was as a result of some events that occurred in June 2014. The plaintiff obtained a judgment against the state, and in 2015 the state paid $223,266 US and another 56,000 Ghana cedis towards the judgment debt. In 2022 the plaintiff resumed execution of the debt, which at this point had grown because of compound interest to $988,294,313. Almost $1 billion. And Godfred Dame defended us against it. There's more. You see, again, we're going back to the lawyers who are agreed to sign deals where if we breach, compound interest will bankrupt us. Listen to this. NDK. Another one. We agreed to this deal, and there was interest accruing after the judgment at a rate of 6.5% per month, calculated at the close of each day and payable at the end of every month from January 7, 2009 up to date. Please, you tell me who was in charge in January 7, 2009. By 2020, the debt had become 1,273,000,000 Ghana cedis. Dame had that put aside. I'll give one more and then we can move on. African Automobile Limited versus Ministry of Employment and Manpower Development and the Attorney General. This one, their lawyer was Kofi Abuchi. Look, this one, compound interest again grew to the point of 10 trillion 331,841,000. Hey, what am I even saying? 10,331,841,859,411 Ghana cedis and 20 pesos. That was how much we owed. And the High Court actually granted an order for garnish. You are the lawyers. You know what that means. It means that the High Court said that the claimant can actually go and hold our accounts at Bank of Ghana to take that money out of it. Please, am I accurate? Thank you. Dame defended us against that. So, you know what? Let's be fair to the man. If he wasn't doing a good job, we would owe a lot more than this 111 million that is embarrassing us. Because government officials are reckless enough to bankrupt this nation without caring what happens.
Right. Thank you very much.
Let's say something. I think that his submission is on point. And it's also correct to say that when it comes to arbitration awards, it's final. Appeal. However, there are limited instances under which it can be appealed. So, for example, on grounds of lack of jurisdiction, on grounds of public policy, if the arbitration panel itself exceeds its jurisdiction, and then also procedural impropriety, on all these grounds, you can appeal against. Just to
we have just 10 minutes. I want us to treat a final topic. Maybe 3 minutes each will do. NDC outlines conditions for peace pact Assent. So the General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress, he has come out with some conditions upon which the party would only agree to assent to a peace pact by the Peace Council. Briefly, let me run you through some of the conditions. One, full implementation of the Ayawaso West Wogon Commission's recommendation. Two, prosecution of those responsible for the killings during the 2020 election. Prosecution of individuals involved in the illegal printing of ballot papers. Transparent, honest, and public addressing of the missing equipment at the EC's office, satisfactory to the general public. A public declaration by the President to accept the will of the people in the 2024 elections. And signatures from the President, Chief Justice, Attorney General, and IGP on the document. So these are the conditions that the chairman of the NDC spelled out, upon which the party would agree to sign the peace pact. Briefly, Kojo, 3 minutes.
It's so childish. Look, these peace pacts, they are not legally binding, but they are symbolic and important. It's just a demonstration that we all want peace. Just that signaling alone is a positive thing. It's not a negative, it's a plus, not a minus. And for anyone to turn it into a political football seems to me a very pointless and childish move. I mean, General Mosquito is correct when he says that it's not because of that there is peace. It's not because we sign these documents that we are peaceful. It's not because of it. But saying I won't sign it is a completely different thing altogether. And he cannot pretend that as a political leader, his actions and decisions do not have any effect on his followers. He can't pretend that when he says things, it has no meaning to the people who follow him. It has meaning. We all know that while politicians are friends with each other and go and eat in chop bars together, their followers fight, sometimes to the death. We all know this. So how can he be so irresponsible to think that making such a comment will have no effect? Look, if even it is a meaningless, pointless act, that is not the reason why we are peaceful. If really it is of very little consequence, then why not just sign it? Why not? Why rather take the opportunity to use it to say something divisive? Why?
Okay.
What's the benefit of that?
Right. Thank you. A very interesting perspective there. Let me now come to you, Council.
Yeah, I think that somehow I tend to concur with, in part, with the submission of the national chairman of the NDC. You know, according to the United Nations Development Program, when they attempted to define what peace is, they said that peace is not the absence of war, but the absence of the conditions of war. We are all living in this country, and all the things that the NDC itemized, I find them not to be outrageous. I find them not to be irrational. They are objective realities. Before the 2020 election, some people were killed and others were maimed at Ayawaso. And up to this day, nothing has been done. All the excesses of the 2020 elections. So if the chairman says you should do this, you should do this, because KOG would bear with me that when it comes to doing what is just and right, it just doesn't have to be done, but it has to be seen done. So when they say, okay, do this, so to build public confidence in the electoral system.
It should be
wonderful. But if the government or the powers that be do not tend to pay attention to these critical details and just come and sign peace pact, I think that it shouldn't be there. Let's ensure that every Ghanaian who is going to participate in this democratic exercise has his confidence built in the process. But where some of us are gravely doubtful about the whole exercise, can't we actually raise our legitimate and genuine concerns that you are supposed to do this, you are supposed to do that, which we didn't do? And not until you do them, these things will just be, to use the word of Bob Marley, a fleeting illusion to be pursued but never to be attained. That's my opinion.
Kwame. Okay, we are pressed for time, but let me just start on this note that peace is predicated on principles and policies, okay, and it's predicated on the actions, omissions of the players and actors in the pursuit of that peace. So it is not just an enabler. It's the effect of actions and omissions of people that will give you the peace and the tranquil that you are looking for, right? I'll just skip because I had a lot to say about this and just wanted to give us a background and to further explain why, in my estimation, the chairman of the NDC put forward these conditions, right? To say that the National Peace Council, okay, is clothed with some authority to ensure cohesion, to ensure stability, to ensure that there's some cooperation politically by all the political parties, okay, in the exercise of their functions as political parties, and in also ensuring that there's some peaceful environment for political activities to thrive and for people to go about their normal business. So it was established in 2011. So the National Peace Council is not just a body, it's a body that was established by an act. So it's actually the National Peace Council Act
2011,
818, Act 818 of 2011.
Yeah.
The question then becomes, after the establishment of the act which birthed the National Peace Council, what has been the attitude of the National Peace Council in respect of the functions? Now, for the purposes of, because we don't have time, right? Let me just read the functions of the National Peace Council. The first one is promoting national peace and cohesion, conflict resolution and mediation, election monitoring and observation, dispute resolution and mechanisms, peace, education and awareness, collaboration with stakeholders, early warning systems, reconciliation and healing, okay, policy advice, research and documentation. So these are the functions of the National Peace Council given to them by a law that establishes the council. Have they been able to achieve this? You remember what happened at Ayawaso West Wogo by-elections? You remember the 8 people who were killed? Okay? All these things happened as a result of an election process. An election process that is supposed to elect leaders who will lead the people, leaders who will wield the power and authority of the people. What has the National Peace Council done in furtherance of that? They have not done anything. Why has the National Peace Council been silent all this while? Why have they not spoken? Why have they not spoken? It is a very useless body. It's a very useless body, and they speak only when the NDC speaks. But when the MPP is going around saying all manner of things, you have Brandon Champong, you have Ekufuado himself as the president and leader, as a person in whose hands we have given our power and authority, go around to pontificate that he is not going to hand over power, which invariably means that even if they lose the election, he is not going to hand over power. The Peace Council has not found its voice. It's been dead silent. It's been a cemetery. The body has become a cemetery, a morgue. Okay? So, why are they talking about a peace pact now? Why? Didn't we sign the peace pact in 2020?
We did.
Didn't we sign it? Did they ensure that there was some healing? Did they organize any meeting, any reconciliation meeting to address all the issues which were highlighted and raised by Ghanaians? We went on a demonstration. I was part of the people who went on this Agbewo demonstration after the Ayawaso West Wogon by-elections. Okay? Which saw the brutalization of Ghanaians. Needless to say. So now you have found your voice. I think that we have to, in fact, it's an act that set them up, but we have to find a way of disbanding them because they have no place, they have no role to play in this. I think that we should use prominent chiefs even, okay, to do this exercise. Because this particular peace council, and look, in concluding, okay, I don't like war. I don't want us to go back to the dark days where the military barracks would be a source of fear and tyranny, and where the uniform would be a source of panic. Okay, I don't want us to go back into the dark days. All right. However, if the Peace Council is not going to conduct itself in a way that engenders confidence, okay, I support the NDC on this one.
Right. Thank you, Kwame Osudan. So thank you, Council. Thank you. Hey,
Good answer. Senior journalist, good answer.
I wanted to start with that one.
At the
Okay.
beginning of the show, he said anybody who doesn't know this.
Oh, no.
The morning man. I'm more conversant with that one. But it's been an insightful conversation on the show. I've learned so much. I'm sure our viewers have as well. Thank you all for your time this morning. And to our cherished viewers, thank you. Did I say morning? I'm so used to the morning show. I'll see you next time. Do have a pleasant evening. Bye-bye.